Their possessions were few, but their dreams plentiful. The men and women who settled our state shared a vision of building entire communities from the ground up, communities where their family roots would take hold and thrive. And they did. Today, we live and work in the very places that were once home to a smattering of sod houses. The landscape has changed, but the vision lives on, and the men and women working to improve the quality of life in their communities through the construction of affordable housing. They are Nebraska's new pioneers.
One of the challenges we have in Nebraska is that the laws of supply and demand are functions of population, and population is not evenly distributed across the state of Nebraska. NYPA's role is to stimulate the production and acquisition of housing, either rental or ownership housing, in Nebraska communities.
NYPA is a part of this renewed pioneer spirit, offering support to communities like Wymore. The southeast Nebraska town is in need of affordable housing, and it's doing something about it. Through a low-cost housing production program, Wymore has placed a new 2-bedroom home on what was once a vacant lot. A home that will mean a new beginning for a family that otherwise couldn't afford what most of us take for granted. Like the pioneers who settled the Midwest, many communities across Nebraska are taking charge of their own futures. And you can too. But it's not just about finding money and buying land. A successful project requires forethought, planning, persistence, and plenty of time and teamwork. A process that could, and sometimes should, take years. The payoff is well worth the effort, as more communities realize that building quality, affordable housing is an important form of economic development. Whether you're thinking of constructing single-family dwellings for ownership, apartments for rental, or maybe refurbishing an old neighborhood, there are several steps you must follow.
Housing is no different than any other form of economic development. If you don't plan for it adequately, then you're going to run into problems as you move along the path of trying to come to a development end. Now, every housing project I've ever done has been motivated by the need for housing in order to create economic development.
Knowing the needs of your community is the first and most important step, and community input is crucial.
There's not very little horizontal movement in your community. I mean, this would certainly...
Bounce your ideas off community leaders. Examine the makeup of your city or town to determine what's best. While the build it and they will come theory may work in the movies, it doesn't work for successful housing development. The need must be there.
Our theory is that a community needs to reinvest in itself. It needs to find the things that are missing in its community and find a way to get them into the community. That requires local leadership. It requires the ability to look at your community objectively, find the things that you need, and go out and get them.
In addition to determining need, make sure you begin familiarizing yourself with local policies and regulations, zoning laws, building codes, and property tax policies. Back your ideas up with facts. Conduct a market study to find out who you need to serve, what they want, and what they can afford. Valuable demographic and housing information can be obtained from the city, county, or state housing departments. This information will lay the groundwork for a successful project. With proof on paper, potential lenders and investors will be much more likely to back your plan. At this stage, you'll want to map out a timeline too, charting key activities and milestones in the development process. In the beginning, the timeline will be very broad and likely to change, but it will give you a starting point from which to monitor progress. There are many people who can help you take your idea and turn it into a reality. You don't have to go it alone. Particularly on larger projects, you'll need to surround yourself with a team of people committed to seeing the project through.
Well, it's important to have the community support. We try to work with the local financial institutions from the get-go and be involved and know that they may have potential customers that could benefit from these types of housing. Involving the government in the development of this type of a project also is very positive, that if your community leaders are in favor of the creation of affordable housing in their community, it's a real plus for the community, and it could lead to economic growth as well.
Draw from a diverse pool of expertise: developers, bankers, attorneys, accountants, potential clients, investors, architects, and city housing and zoning representatives, to name a few. Tapping into community resources is also valuable because it helps get the word out about your plan and builds local support. With an idea and people in place, it's time to examine the project to determine feasibility. Work with the numbers to determine if you can afford the affordable housing development you're considering. Add up your construction, financing, and operating costs and compare it to the amount your targeted renters or buyers can pay, given their income. For example, in a rental project, if your total monthly rents exceed your operating expenses, mortgage payments, and maintenance reserves, the project would be feasible. In the case of an ownership project, the total cost of the house, as reflected in the mortgage, should be less than 30% of the owner's income. If not, the developer should seek subsidies from public or private sources to reduce the mortgage payment of the owner. Working these figures up front will help eliminate potential financial snags that could delay a project or result in its ultimate failure. Many first-time developers believe finding money for a project is the first step in the process, when in fact, that step can only be carried out after a detailed plan and budgets have been proposed. At least 3 budgets must be developed: a pre-development budget, which covers the 3 E's of pre-construction costs: economics, engineering, and environmental studies on the site; a development budget, which covers the cost of land and construction or rehabilitation; and finally, for a rental project, an operating budget, which shows what the project will cost on a year-to-year basis for the life of the development. To keep housing development affordable, consider using a variety of funding sources. Grants and subsidies through foundations and government sources are important, and sometimes they don't need to be repaid. Consider local investors and community fundraising, which will not only bring in money, but enhance hometown support. Loans, of course, must be paid off, but certain sources can offer more flexible repayment terms to facilitate affordable housing development.
Comparison cost-wise, to be able to put a family into a new home for about $75,000 is very affordable and very reasonable. And there are a number of incentive programs to get your financing for this house that make that even more affordable to those residents.
Finally, it's time for the groundbreaking. With construction underway, you want to keep the project moving, on time and on budget. But expect the unexpected. There are factors beyond your control that can delay a project. Weather, especially in Nebraska, where a sunny 50-degree morning can give way to an afternoon snowstorm. A contractor may back out in the middle of the project, or you may discover problems with the site. So, even before construction begins, market your project to potential renters and buyers so they're ready to move in when the development is completed. The final step in the process is lease-up and operation for rental properties, or sales for ownership. The lease-up or sales period might include some downtime while people make their housing decisions, arrange their personal finances, and resolve their credit issues. Ideally, you'll have occupants in the first few months. However, it may be a process that takes much longer if you don't start your marketing process early. Finally, you'll have a detailed project operating budget nailed down. But keep in mind, it will change. Property tax rates, gas and electric rates, and other utilities fluctuate, so plan for contingencies and review operation results regularly to verify your project is within budget. Have operating reserves socked away from the very beginning so you have some money to fall back on during the lease-up period for rising operating expenses and for other unexpected costs.
Welcome to our Barn house. Here we have our living room area, kitchen dining room combination. We have cabinets in place.
So the process is: 1. Perform a needs assessment. 2. Create a timeline. 3. build a team. 4, determine feasibility. 5, arrange financing. 6, begin construction. 7, manage sales, lease-up, and operations.
It'll be a great feeling to have someone living here. It is a high-quality house. You looked around, I mean, it is a home that someone should be very proud to live in. And we are very glad to be part of it, that we've added these homes to a community such as Wymore.
Wymore is keeping the pioneer spirit alive, and your community can too, by taking your vision through a step-by-step process. With a detailed plan in hand, Wymore has laid out a plan for a successful, affordable housing development, one that will not only improve their community, but in the true pioneer spirit, will mean a new beginning for a grateful Nebraska family.